So how's it going, team? So something a little different from me today. Usually we have a guest on the Average Jacks podcast, but just due to people's lives, situations, circumstances, we've had to rearrange a few over the last week or so. And that's been sort of difficult for me. Not with anyone in particular, just with my own sort of standards and expectation of myself. I sort of made a goal when I started this that I wanted to be regular with the content, keep it going, be a weekly podcast. And for the first 8 weeks, that was something that I did. It was quite easy, actually. You know, when you have something new, you're very passionate about it, you're very keen to do it. Other people are interested, they're keen to do it as well. And I still think people are keen to do the podcast. You know, I am dooming a little bit here, but this is just going to be me chatting out loud. So apologies if you don't like listening to people waffle, but I'm going to try and be as honest as possible. I'm going to try and make it as interesting as possible. But yeah, getting back to my point, the standards that I set myself were to be consistent with this. And when last week came around and I couldn't do that, it pissed me off. Just myself. It was something that I was probably too hard on myself with. I let it control me a little bit, consume me with the expectation that I had. And that's wrong. That wasn't the best way to channel that. You know, I'm always trying to work on myself and work on other things, and definitely this is an eye opener to my own progress as a person. But you know, we're coming toward it maybe happening again this week where people have super busy lives and you know, they have their own priorities and their own things that they want to take care of and do, and that's completely fine. And I think for me, something that I've had to work on this week is understanding that and taking away my own frustration with my own standards and being conscious of the outside world, if that makes sense. So yeah, I thought I'm always banging on about being outside of your comfort zone and living on the edge of the comfort zone because that's where real progress is made and it's where you understand what you're capable of and who you are. So, in true fashion of talking about that, talk's cheap, as the expression goes. So here I am trying to put it into action, and I don't know how long this will be. It might be 5 minutes, it might be 50. I highly doubt it'll be 50 minutes, so don't worry if you're here for the long run. But just wanted to sort of chat to where I'm up to with this journey, what I have planned for this journey, what I've been up to, some of the things that I think right now. So something that I always ask the guests is the three main habits or routines that they do that they would recommend to, you know, the everyday person or someone in their specific field. And I thought that'd be a good place to start for me. I know that it's been flipped on me once or twice, maybe, but definitely once by Anna when I did the podcast with Anna Hughes, and that was really good because it put me on the spot. And listening back to that and reflecting, I can't even remember what the answers I gave now. So, yeah, if that makes me a hypocrite, albeit. But I think the three that I've been thinking about since, you know, coming up with this idea of having to do this solo podcast, which is fucking terrifying for me, that'd answer that question. So I think one would probably be sleep. I've always been a terrible sleeper. Thanks, Mum. Probably get that off you. But my sleep routine has always been terrible. I've always been someone who is like, sleep when you're dead, you know. Let's be alive. And by being alive, I mean like fucking playing on my Nintendo Switch or my Xbox or doom scrolling through social media till 2, 3 in the morning, getting down rabbit holes on YouTube. That was me for a very long time. definitely. Didn't really understand the importance of sleep. Never had the education. Because I don't think the education was available that it is now. You look at all the resources, the podcast, TED Talks, it's such a discussed topic now, and there's so much sort of literature on that, and that'll segue nicely into my next habit that is something that I can't live without. But going back to sleep, it really is a game changer when you get it right. It's something that's so important. You can look at the studies. I know Matthew Walker talks about it, and there was the time that when they spoke to people, they explained all the benefits of this one pill. They sold it as like a performance enhancing drug, and they asked people, there's like, it can increase like your testosterone, it can increase your recovery, it can increase your brain function, what you memorize, what you remember, makes you happier, blah blah blah, you name it, all these benefits. And everyone was like, yeah, I'd take that if that was a supplement or PED, you know. And like, what is it? What is that? Is it real? Does it exist? And they were like, fucking yeah, mate, it does exist. It's sleep. And you know, I think you only realise how important sleep is when you've seen both ends of the spectrum. So when I was younger, I was on like an aspirin inhaler or something, and it sort of gave me symptoms of insomnia, and that was horrible. Would not recommend that to anybody. Not that anyone's going out looking to have that, but yeah, it was shit, man. And I really got an understanding of what like having sort of a chronic negative relationship with sleep does. And then years later, thanks to Nick, you know, my beautiful fiance and the person who probably makes me better every day and doesn't let me be an egomaniac or an arsehole. Well, I'm still an arsehole, but less of an arsehole. But, you know, she sleeps like a cat, and I'm so envious of that. Pisses me off at times when I'm up and can't settle and she's puts her head on the pillow and goes straight to sleep. I'm sure we've all met these people that can have that ability. And for me, that's something that I fucking wish I had. Like, if I had a superpower, it'd be like sleep on command. It's a bit dramatic. I'd probably pick something a bit better, but along them lines, it's definitely something that I wish I could do. And moving into a house with Nick and sort of getting into the same routine as each other, there's been periods recently in the last few years where I've had really good sleep habits, and the difference in me generally, my performance in the gym, my recovery from the gym, just my cognitive function, how I feel in the day, how I perform at work, how I react to things is just tenfold better. Tenfold better. So there's things that I've included in, you know, my sleep routine, and sleep hygiene's a big thing. And I think people sort of stub, not the right word? Snub. They like put the nose up to it. They say like, what sleep hygiene is like washing your face before bed. I suppose it is that, but it's not hygiene as such. It's more the routine and the habit that you put in place to create the neuroplasticity in your brain to be like, right, when we do this, we are going to bed. We are setting the scene, we are setting the stall in our minds, we're preparing our body to go to sleep. And I thought that was bollocks. You might think it's bollocks. It's not bollocks. It's a legit thing. So, like, when you have a routine in place, things just go so much smoother. And that's why I'm such a massive advocate of it. So for me, big things was blue light, which is the light that emits from phone screens, iPads, TVs. Removing that as close to bed, or, well, like an hour before bed, I got some blue light glasses. Super stylish, if you can't tell the sarcasm in my voice, but worked a treat. There was something that I incorporated, and then it was not drinking too much because I piss like a racehorse the majority of the time. So, you know, the last thing you want to do is get comfy in bed and need to go for a piss. Another thing was having the room cool. That's a big one. Nick's going to be screaming at this if she ever listens to it, like, it needs to be warm. Doesn't need to be warm. All the science states that it needs to be cold. And for me, I'm generally a warm person, so the cooler the better. I mean, there's nothing better, is there, than getting in bed in like the middle of winter and being like, how cold is this? How nice is this? So yeah, get rid of blue light, make it cool, and fucking hell, I've literally just forgot what I was saying. Anyway, the other one, but also on top of that, a massive thing that I introduced was nasal strips. You know, like the Robbie Fowler, Alex Harmonzi, is that how you say his name? That geezer? One who has the big fucking black nasal strip on his nose. I mean, they're incredible. I struggle with my breathing. For those who don't know me, I am an absolute medical write-off. I've got like baby lungs, blocked nose. I'm a mess, but here we are. So yeah, these nasal strips are class. You sort of put them on and they have this metal strip in them and they like pull your nostrils this way to increase the airflow into your nose. So I think it can increase airflow by like 33% from what I've read. I mean, they could be botched stats. I've never actually seen of like peer-reviewed studies or anything like that. But they work for me, and if placebo, if it works, it works. It doesn't matter, does it? Mouth tape is one where the jury is out. So another medical condition, which you'll find out, is I suffer from mild sleep apnea. And so with that, I like wake up with a throbbing head. It's almost like waking up with a hangover. The nasal strip and the combination of the mouth tape really helped that, really negated that process. So I would therefore recommend it if you struggle with that, but it's not sexy. I mean, I'm not sexy generally, but it's definitely not, you know, one for the bedroom, as they say, because you look like the fucking mummy. And yeah, I remember speaking to someone at work and I was telling them, and it was like, my husband would hate that. And I'm like, yeah, they would. Yeah, like they're not gonna find it super attractive when you've got fucking first aid tape strapped to your lip, you got this nasal strip on, and then the other thing that I use for my sleep is like a proper blackout eye mask. Game changer. I think if I was gonna have any out of all of them, oh, I don't know. It'd be a close one between the nasal strip and the eye mask. The eye mask just literally blacks everything out, and even when your eyes are shut, like if you're out on a bright day and you close your eyes, you can sort of still get some sort of light through your eyelids. And I'm a really light sensitive sleeper, so that really helps with me. So yeah, top three would definitely be eye mask, nose tape, and then probably cold room. But there's other things you can do as well. Magnesium, a great supplement, but yeah, I just remember what the other one I was talking about. It was not drinking too much before bed. So like sleep hygiene, going back to the original topic, then that is sort of my sleep hygiene ritual, is try and avoid blue light, don't drink too much before bed, get the room cold, blackout eye mask, nasal strip, mouth tape, and magnesium. Bash. There you go. There's a sleep hygiene thing for you. So yeah, another thing that I do with my sort of sleep routine, which segues nicely into the second habit, of which is sort of irreplaceable for a very strong word in my life, is reading. So I don't know if you're watching this, but I'm currently piecing. This is my toilet book, which, as you can imagine, is try and not doom scroll when you're on the bog. Just take a book in with you, read a couple of pages, make a massive difference. This is a cool book, by the way, The Daily Stoic. Thanks, Ash, for lending it me. So this is like, if you're into philosophy and stoicism and things like that, this is like every day has its own sort of entry, and you just read it every day. It's just one page. Should we see what we're looking at today? We'll go through it. What we're on the 3rd of June. Look at Is it June? July? God, my head's up my arse at the minute. Right, so we've got, Fucking hell, that's a big one. I'll just read the quote. So it's like July 3rd. Turn have to into get to. The task of a philosopher. We should bring our will into harmony with whatever happens, so that nothing happens against our will, and nothing that we wish for fails to happen. Mad shit. I mean, written thousands of years ago. Applicable to today. But anyway, getting back to reading. I love reading. Wrote a book, as I hope you've all bought and checked out, because, yeah, not everyone can say they wrote a book. But for me, I just feel like learning and continuous learning is massive. So I was always reading non-fiction for a very, very long time. I didn't really read novels. I mean, my favourite book is 1984 by George Orwell, but that shit is different. I mean, that makes me cry every time. I'm not ashamed to say that. That's such a good book. But it would be definitely non-fiction would be the special of the day, every day for me. But I was finding that when I was reading before bed, I would read because it's very meditative, and it would help me de-stress and unwind, because I'm a cynical thinker, an overthinker. I really let things play on my mind, and I really let them stay with me. So reading put me into a place and a state of mind that would allow me to switch off, which is exactly what I need. But on the opposite of that, I was reading sometimes some very heavy literature. I mean, heavy for me, I'm not the most academic person in the world. So when you're reading books about, studies into circadian rhythm and that sort of jazz, and you're trying to fall asleep, you're sort of doing the opposite of what you're intending to do. You're sort of stimulating your brain with this information and trying to learn, but I found that I was just fighting sleeping to read more. So I moved to fiction. I moved to fiction, and that was massive, because there wasn't any real need to worry about finishing a paragraph or a chapter or anything like that. It was just a case of reading and falling asleep where you do. So yeah, reading's a massive part of my life. I've not stopped with non-fiction, to mention. I just listen that now. I find it's easier to digest audibles, or, audibles, that sort of thing. So I listen to them on like commutes, which is something that's dead good. I feel like, I love music. Music's a massive part of my life, always has been. But sometimes, I don't know if it's just me, you can be sat in a car and you'll be like, fuck, there's nothing I want to listen to. Nothing. There's no song that will scratch that itch. There's nothing that will do this. And I found that, listen to a podcast or listen to a book would scratch that itch. And I'm not saying I don't listen to music anymore, because that would be bullshit. I listen to music probably more than I listen to audiobooks, but I threw it into rotation, and it was massive. Especially if you get into a book that you really enjoy. I mean, I listened to The Count of Monte Cristo on Audible, and it was like 52 hours long. But I just sped it up a time and a half, and it was done. And, well, obviously, do the maths at the same time. It was done less in the time that I sped it up to. And that's just one of them little caveats that makes stuff like Audible cool, because I'm a very slow reader to take everything in. Like, I remember reading The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, and he was talking about learning to scan read, and I was like, mate, I would take nothing in. I just don't know how to do it. Tried to get better at it, but naturally a slow reader. So yeah, when you got Audible and you can just like 1.8 a book and you just smash through it, definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. And sometimes you'll be reading, like if you're like me, a non-fiction book, and be like, what the fuck does that word? How do I even say it? Never mind, what does it mean? So to have someone reading it, normally the author, who, you get little snippets that you wouldn't normally get, little additional extras, like David Goggins' book. His second book is like there's a exclusive like mini podcast interview at the end of every one on the Audible. That's cool. That's worth paying that extra money for me, just to get that insight. So yeah, sleep, reading, and then it'd just be being active in some capacity. But I think for me specifically, being in some form of community, I think that what I've found is when you train with other people, shout out Chuggy Peas, wearing my Charlie Panther top, is that you get involved in a community. Same with the gym I'm at now, Unity. Big shout out Rick. But like it's different. It adds such a level to your training when you have a community of people and like-minded people around you and people who are interested in the same thing. You know, I do like training on my own occasionally, but I don't get nowhere near the results that I would training on my own than I would with someone or in a group. And I think that's where a lot of people fall off. I think we're social creatures naturally. Like we are tribalistic creatures. We like to be with other people. The majority of us like to be with other people. But then we have this idea that training should be this laborious solo burden that we take on our own. And to a degree, sometimes that's perfectly fine. Do you know what I mean? I think there has to be an element of it. But I think majoritively, we should be with people we enjoy being with, people who can push us, people who can challenge us to be better. And I think that's what you get in community environments. I mean, I think that's why CrossFit and things like High Rocks are so well sought after, and people fall in love with them. I'm an example of that. I mean, I've had my ups and downs with it, don't get me wrong, but, you know, when you find it, that gym or that community or that team that you play for, it motivates you to go back. You feel accountable to them people. You don't want to let them people down. You want to do well for them people. I do anyway. I mean, I can't be the only one. I can't be the exception to the rule. So that would be sort of my personal recommendation to anyone. Anyone who's listening, if anyone is listening at this point, hopefully you are. Hopefully you're not asleep. If you are asleep, I hope it's helped. But yeah, I think if you're going to train and you're going to start and you've never been there and, you're looking for that little spark as to what will make you carry on, I think it's being in a community or even having a coach. I'm a big advocate of having a coach. That doesn't have to be just in exercise and fitness. I mean, it helps, but it can be in anything. Anything. I mean, there's people out there who have expertise in, anything. Again, saying that word a lot, but why not use their expertise if they're willing to share it? Why not give yourself that piggyback or leg up to get into where you want to go faster? Then people have already been there and done that. It's like with the podcast, I had a chat with a guy who hopefully I'm going to get on the podcast, Gareth. So thanks, Gareth, for meeting up with me and stuff like that. But I picked his brain because he is somewhere where I'd like to be. Same with John at Built Strong. These are people that I look up to and respect and have no shame in asking to be sort of mentors as to where I want to be. I think there's a lot of pride and ego today of people want to be, I did it this way, I did it by myself, I didn't need anybody else. There's no shame in needing people. I think that was an offence of mine growing up, whilst thinking that I could do it without anyone else was better than help. And you're not better than help. No one's better than help. There is always someone in a position where you want to be. And if not, fair fucking play. Fair play for finding something so niche or so specialist that you are the only person in that position. But let me tell you, people will come to you and look for help. And something I've learned from my own experience as being like a gym instructor, a fitness class instructor, there is no better way to learn than to teach. And I know this is a bit of a caveat, a bit of a tangent, like all of this is, but here you are listening to me waffle. Yeah, there is no better way to learn than to teach, because it tests everything that you know. Because say you believe in something and you know something one way, but you're trying to instill that into, you know, a client or someone in a class, and they can't understand it, well, you better fucking believe that. You better have enough knowledge to change your perspective, your cues, what you're doing to help that person, because that is your role. And you have to learn on the spot. And as they say, pressure makes diamonds. Thrown into the deep end, that shit works. It definitely works. But yeah, exercise is so important. I mean, before I had a shit day today, I'm feeling sorry for myself. Probably the last week, I've wrote a tweet about it today. Tweet, X, whatever it is. And like shit days do just come and go. Sometimes they come in succession and they just roll and keep coming. And that's fine. I think the secret to combating that though is realising they will go. You will get better days. I was having a conversation with someone the other week, excuse me, and we was talking, and I remember saying, like, if you never had the lows, you'd never appreciate the highs. So, you know, you need the shit times, you need the shit days and the shit gym sessions and the shit feedback on your job and the shit feedback on your, I don't know, your dissertation, whatever. Like, look at negativity as a positive, because you can always take something positive from the negative. Again, easier said than done. In my own life, I was someone who really still struggle with critique, take it very personal. But, you know, I put these things into place, like journaling, which again, honourable mention if it's with it not being top 3. But I suppose the habits and the routines that I was talking about were a lot more general than just something specific. But yeah, getting it onto paper, taking it out of here and putting it onto there, it's massive. Anyone who lives rent free in their own head, like me, I can't advocate getting shit out of here and putting it elsewhere. It's like releasing pressure on a pressure cooker. That's me trying to sound cool and stoic when I said pressure and pressure cooker. But yeah, I remember I actually had a conversation with a friend of mine, and she's currently writing a book, and she's great, and she's a listener of the podcast, and she's going to hopefully come onto the podcast. And I asked her for some feedback about the podcast, and she was like, "Yeah, it's very fitness centric and exercise centric." And I appreciate her feedback. I've got a lot of time for it, and it sort of made me think. And I didn't argue. I just sort of came back with the counter that I think, and obviously what this podcast has shown me, is that for people who want to focus on their well-being and their health and their habits and their happiness, that activity and exercise is always a focal point of them people's lives. Like, go back and listen to all the podcasts that I've done up until this point. Someone's always mentioned activity in some degree. So yeah, I can appreciate where that point comes from, and we will definitely probably thrash it out when we have the podcast together, because she's brilliant and she's very intelligent. She'll probably pick me to pieces, so that'll be a good one to see how I hold my own in outside of my comfort zone. But yeah, I'm probably going to wrap that up, because I've just looked and I've been absolutely chatting shit for half an hour. So if you've listened to it and you've got this far, I appreciate it. I also appreciate all the support that I've had for the book, the podcast, just generally. It was really, I can't think of any other word than just nice. It gave me a bit of faith in people again. I think it's very easy to see the worst in people in sort of today's society and things like that, as wanky as that may sound. But yeah, I'm a bit of a cynic at heart. I try and fight that with, you know, the practices that I preach and what I do. And, you know, I'm not saying I'll never be here and say I'm perfect and, you know, I'm this guru of fucking habits and happiness and health, because I'm not. Every day is a learning curve, but yeah, it was nice when you get the feedback from people. People support you, people that you didn't even imagine would support you are some of your biggest fans, and will back you to the hilt. So yeah, thank you for listening. Hopefully this won't happen too much more. It'll be guests. We've got a jams packed lineup coming up soon. I think I've got like 6 or 7 in the next couple of weeks lined up. So hopefully all them planets do align and we can just get them done and get them out to you guys and just keep hopefully providing a service that you're enjoying, you're getting something from. But yeah, thank you to you guys and I hope you enjoy. Shout out to the sponsors, Vertigo Strength, the goats, the guys, the boys. Yeah, appreciate all your support with this and your help. Yeah, that's it. We're done. Check me out at www.jackmckiernan.co.uk. That's where you'll find out everything about the book, about me, why I'm doing it. If you've not just listened to 30 other minutes of me telling you why I've done it. But you can check out the newsletter. The newsletter is a weekly newsletter where I search share trinkets in my life. Things what have been on my brain. A bit like this. This is probably like a vocal newsletter. And yeah, just some exclusive offers for other things that are connected with myself and the Average Jacks podcast. But yeah, team, thank you. Peace out. And I'll catch you next time. See ya.